Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. This time we're heading over to Taiwan to explore a radio show called Golden Harmony of Happiness.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
It is. This is actually their second episode, and get this, it's all about the elderly.
Oh wow, that's a topic that's becoming increasingly important everywhere, isn't it?
It really is. And what makes this show even more special is that it's aired on national education radio.
So it has a big audience then. That's pretty cool, reaching a lot of people.
Huge audience, yeah. And you know what else? The host, Professor John Chang, is kind of a big deal.
Oh, is he?
He won the 2024 Golden Bell Award for Best Host.
Wow. That's like the highest honor for radio in Taiwan, right?
You got it. So we know we're in for a treat. Plus, he's got this co-host, Walker Su. He's a PhD candidate and lecturer at National Taiwan Normal University.
Impressive. What's his specialty?
Special education, actually.
So they've got like the perfect blend of expertise for this topic, experience and academic knowledge.
Exactly. And this particular episode is titled Golden Harmony of Happiness, the healing path to breaking through mental challenges. And they've structured it so cleverly, like a 3-movement musical piece.
Love that. So what's the first movement all about?
It's called Prelude to the Golden Years. They start off with this really powerful interview, a woman they call Chang's mother.
Chang's mother.
Yeah. She's in her 70s, caring for her son, Chang, who's in his 50s and struggling with mental health.
Wow. That must be so demanding, both physically and emotionally.
Absolutely. It really sets the stage for what this episode is all about.
It does, doesn't it? Getting right into those lived experiences. And is that all they do in this first movement?
Well, no. They also weave in excerpts from this book. It's called People Like Us, a love letter to middle-aged people.
Interesting title. Who's the author?
It's by this renowned Taiwanese author, Changman Xuan. And there's this one quote really stuck with me. He says, "We gradually understood and also gradually aged. Thus we live out the second half of our lives in regret, remorse, and confusion."
Wow, that's powerful stuff. And so relatable, I think. That sense of reflection as we get older,
Yeah, I think a lot of people go through that. Wondering about choices, maybe even regrets.
For sure. And imagine dealing with that while also caring for a loved one who needs constant support, like Chang's mother.
It adds a whole other dimension to those feelings, doesn't it? But the book doesn't just dwell on the negative, does it?
No, it doesn't. It offers a message of hope, too. Changman Xuan writes, "Those who have reached middle age have discovered that the essence of happiness does not lie in fame and fortune, but in those things that bring us peace and satisfaction."
That's so important to remember, especially these days when everyone's chasing external success.
Right. Sometimes we forget about the simple things that truly bring us joy. And, Chang's mother, despite her challenges, she seems to embody that kind of resilience, wouldn't you say?
I think so, yeah. Finding peace and satisfaction in caring for her son, even with all the difficulties.
It's beautiful, really. It speaks to the strength of the human spirit.
It does. So we've got these personal stories, these philosophical reflections, all in this first movement. But do we know how widespread these challenges are? Like, how many people are facing these situations?
They actually do bring in some statistics in this part.
Oh, really? From who?
From Tang Xihua. She's the Secretary General of the Taiwan Association for Social Psychological Rehabilitation.
Okay, what'd she say?
Get this. Over 73% of people with disabilities in Taiwan are over 50, and almost half of them are over 65.
Wow. That's a huge number. And it makes you realize just how crucial it is to have support systems in place.
Right. For sure. For both individuals and their families. And, it's not just a Taiwanese issue. This trend of an aging population with increasing mental health needs, it's global.
Absolutely. This episode is touching on something much bigger than just one country's experience.
Exactly. It's a wake-up call for all of us, really. Something we should all be thinking about.
I agree. So they really connected those personal stories with the bigger picture. Pretty impressive. What comes next in this episode?
Well, the second movement, it's called Symphony of the Golden Years. That's where they bring in the expert.
Makes sense. Get some more in-depth analysis going.
And they got Tang Xihua to do it, the one who shared those stats earlier.
Oh, perfect. She seems to really know her stuff.
Yeah, she's like a leading voice in mental health in Taiwan. And she starts off by, taking us back in time a bit.
Back in time? How so?
Like the history of mental health care in Taiwan. Talking about when national health insurance started back in 95 and the Mental Health Act they passed in 2007.
Wow, so they're putting things in context, showing how things have evolved.
Exactly. And even getting into how they updated that act just recently in 2022, focusing more on community-based care now.
Oh, that's interesting. A shift in approach, it sounds like.
It is. But what I found really fascinating is how she used pop culture to show how attitudes have changed.
Pop culture. Okay, I'm curious. Tell me more.
She mentioned this old TV show, 18-Year-Old Bride. Apparently, it portrayed mental illness in a really stereotypical way, not very positive.
Yeah, I could see how that would reflect the thinking back then.
Right. So by showing that contrast compared to how far care has come, it highlights all the progress made.
It really does. Shows how understanding has evolved.
But even with progress, there are still obstacles.
Sadly, yeah. What kind of things did they talk about?
Well, the cost of some medications, the older ones especially, can be a real burden on families.
Yeah, that's a worldwide issue.
Yeah.
Medications should be accessible to everyone who needs them.
It's true. But they did talk about some potential solutions, like those new long-acting injections.
Oh yeah, I've heard about those. Supposed to be game changers for some people.
They are, especially for folks like A-Cheng. They only need them every few weeks, sometimes even months.
Imagine the relief. No more struggling to remember daily pills.
And the show mentioned that it can lead to better symptom control, too, fewer side effects.
Fascinating how these advancements are making such a difference.
They are really improving lives. But, they also brought up another worry a lot of folks face.
Oh, what's that?
Well, they went back to A-Cheng's mother. Her biggest anxiety is, naturally, what happens to her son when she can't care for him anymore.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. A thought that must weigh heavily on so many caregivers.
And Tang Xiehua made this point. She said, love cannot generate electricity.
Wow, that's powerful. What does she mean by that?
Love is essential, of course, but it's not enough on its own. Mental illness is complex, needs more than just emotional support.
She's right. It needs a whole system of care, professionals, resources, all working together.
Exactly. And that's what she emphasized. Love needs to be backed up by concrete action.
Especially for older adults, they're often the primary caregivers. They need to know they're not alone in this.
Exactly. So they talked about ways individuals, families, even communities can help.
Okay, what were some of their suggestions?
Well, reaching out to support organizations early on. Don't wait for a crisis.
Be proactive. Build that network before it's desperately needed.
Right. And another thing, normalize mental health challenges. Stop seeing it as something to be ashamed of.
It's a health issue, just like any other. Deserves the same care and attention.
Absolutely. And that ties in with the song they played later, but we'll get to that in a bit. Finally, she stressed that recovery is possible.
It is. It is. So important to remember that.
And she shared examples of successful people living fulfilling lives, even with mental illness.
Giving hope. Showing it doesn't have to define your whole life.
Exactly. It was a really powerful segment. So many valuable insights.
I'm really blown away by how this show is tackling this topic. It's informative, but it's also so moving,
I know what you mean. It's not just throwing facts at you. It's really connecting with you emotionally.
Yeah, and they do it so well with all these different elements, the music, the literature, the expert opinions.
It's like a full experience, engaging you on so many levels.
It really is. I keep thinking about that quote, love cannot generate electricity. It's just stuck with me.
It is a powerful one. Why do you think it resonated so much?
I think because it acknowledges the limits of love. Love is crucial, but it can't fix everything.
Right. Especially with something as complex as mental illness, it needs more than just good intentions and support.
It's a call to action, almost. Saying we need to back up that love with real action, resources, a whole system of care.
And I think that hits home, especially for the show's audience, older adults. They're often the ones giving that care, but they need help too.
Absolutely. So what kind of specific steps did they recommend for people dealing with this or wanting to support others?
Well, Tang Xiehua really stressed reaching out to organizations early on before things get really bad.
Yeah, be proactive, have that safety net ready, just in case.
Exactly. And another big thing, stop treating mental health like it's a secret or something to be ashamed of.
It's a health issue, plain and simple. Treat it like any other.
And that ties in with the song they used later, Suga from BTS. He's been very open about his own mental health.
Oh, that's right. Powerful example, showing it can affect anyone, even someone super successful.
Yeah, and it sends the message that it's okay to talk about it, to ask for help.
So important, especially for younger generations.
And Tang Xihua's last point was all about hope. Recovery is possible, even with serious mental illness.
They shared those stories of people who are managing their conditions, living full lives.
Those are crucial, those stories. Because when you're struggling, it's easy to forget there's light at the end of the tunnel.
And that's really the core message of this whole episode, isn't it? There is hope, there is help, you're not alone.
Delivered with so much compassion, too. Really made an impact.
I agree. This deep dive into golden harmony of happiness has been amazing. So informative, so inspiring.
It really shows how radio can be such a powerful tool, connecting people, educating them, making a difference.
And to think, this is just one episode in a whole series about older adults. Can't wait to see what else they explore.
Me neither. And if you're listening, I really recommend checking out this episode. It's worth it.
Absolutely. And for more fascinating deep dives like this, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. We've got so much more to explore together. Until next time, keep learning and keep the conversation going.